Hi everyone. Many great compositions have been written for particular combinations of instruments, such as the string quartet. However, sometimes we may want to use a different combination of instruments for various reasons, and the nature of Western music notation is such that different instruments cannot all read the same music. Some instruments use different clefs or are transposing instruments. So let's see how MuseScore Studio can help us with this problem, and then we can look a little deeper into the problem of transposing instruments at the end of the video. Here I have a short, simple piece written for string quartet, but the instruments I have available in my imaginary quartet are clarinet in B flat, alto saxophone in E flat, horn in F, and double bass. For a simple quartet phrase like this in which the ranges match well, I can simply change the instruments by going to the Instruments panel, clicking on the Settings cog for a particular instrument, Replace Instrument. So let's replace the violin 1 with a clarinet in B flat. I'll choose woodwinds and then go and find the clarinets. Notice that there are a wide variety of clarinets, and I can even choose whatever transposition I want. If you're in doubt, I suggest you ask your performer exactly what clarinet they play, but a good place to also go is to the common, and then woodwinds and clarinet in B flat is the common one. And that has now changed, and we'll see that the key signature has also changed because this is a transposing instrument and all of the notes have been moved so that they sound right for clarinet. Then I'll replace violin 2 with the alto saxophone, again woodwinds and alto saxophone. Let's replace the viola with the horn in F. They're both quite alto instruments. That's brass and horn in F. And then let's replace the cello or violoncello with the double bass, which is called a contrabass. Notice how each instrument is in a different key because these are all transposing instruments. We can toggle between the transposed score and the concert pitch score with this tick box here in the bottom right that says concert pitch. If it is ticked, we can see what the music will sound like. This is back to how it looked when it was a string quartet. And if it is unticked, then we see what the instruments will read. However, the playback will always be the same. Which makes sense because the playback always plays the concert pitch or the sounding pitch. So notice that the clarinet changes from E major to F sharp major. The alto saxophone goes to C sharp major, or in this case MuseScore has simplified it to D flat major. The horn goes to B major, and the double bass stays the same, but the sounding pitch, or the concert pitch, is an octave lower, and that is indicated by this 8 underneath the bass clef. These notes are quite high for the double bass, and so I may want to adjust the register by selecting everything on this instrument. I'll select the first bar, then use Shift, Control, and End to select everything on that instrument, and Control down will move things an octave down. I can adjust the register of just bars or individual notes for other instruments as well, depending on the range of those instruments and the range of the original music. These ones all seem to be fine. But once this piece has been assigned to other instruments, we may find that we want to change the key, either because of the range of these instruments or just to make fingering and reading easier. Here we can use the transpose function. So Tools and Transpose, and we can select the key. I'll choose F major because that's only a semitone higher than E major. And that gives us a much nicer or more comfortable combination of key signatures in the different instruments. Depending on your combination of instruments, you may need to choose a better key. So perhaps you have a favorite piece of music, or you found a great arrangement on MuseScore.com, the commercial partner website of MuseScore Studio. Hopefully this will allow you to change instruments at will and start experimenting with different instrument combinations. And now for the behind-the-scenes look at transposing instruments. It's wonderful that MuseScore can take care of these transpositions for us and we don't have to go and write things out, but I think it's important and interesting to know what is going on with these transposing instruments. Why is it called a trumpet in B flat or an alto saxophone in E flat? In this score, I have included a lot of different instruments, and you can see that they're all reading the note C. Note that this score is in transposed pitch or not at concert pitch, but I've removed the key signature for illustrative purposes. Notice that as I change to concert pitch or sounding pitch, the flute stays the same. That's because it is a concert pitch instrument. However, the clarinet changes from a written C to a sounding B flat. This illustrates the definition given in the name of the instrument. Clarinet in B flat means that when they read a C, it sounds like a B flat. Similarly, for horn in F, they read a C, but it sounds like an F. And the same goes for all the alto saxophones, an alto saxophone in E flat, a tenor saxophone in B flat, although an octave lower, trumpet in B flat again. Confusingly, tenor trombones are often called B flat trombones or B flat F trombones if they have a trigger. But in most cases, the notation is in concert pitch. You'll notice that the trombone doesn't change. And the same goes for B flat, E flat, and C tubas, even though one might expect them to at least transpose at the octave, the same as the double bass. In this case, the B flat or F or C or E flat refers to the open notes of that instrument and not to how they read. Which leads us into the reason for all these confusing notation changes that make music students thoroughly bewildered. Why not just write it as it sounds? Well, in the woodwinds at least, this is a matter of convenience for learning fingering systems. All of the saxophones, for instance, have the same fingering system, even though they may sound like different notes. And this allows players to fairly easily jump between the different saxophones as needed, without needing to change how they read the music. I believe the clarinet and flute also have similar fingering in some octaves. The brass have a similar situation in the British brass band tradition, in which all of the instruments, or almost all of the instruments, play in treble clef. In this system, all valved instruments have the same fingering for the same written notes, allowing young players to learn in large groups together without worrying about different fingerings for the different notes. However, the brass transposing instruments in the symphony orchestra have a bit more of an interesting historical reason. Early trumpets and horns didn't have valves and could only play the notes in the harmonic series that were available on their instrument. Generally a simple arpeggio-like figure that is associated today with hunting horns and military bugles. To employ these instruments in the orchestra would have resulted in the orchestra being limited to that key only, and so trumpets and horns were designed that had interchangeable crooks, as they were called, different length pipes that altered the pitch of the instrument's harmonic series. To make things simpler for the player, all the music was written in C major, even if it didn't sound like it, and so we get horn in G or F, or trumpet in B flat or D in old orchestral scores. As the instruments developed and gained valves, the tradition stuck that whatever the open note was of that instrument, that was its transposition. Trombones never had this problem, most likely because they always had a slide that could play chromatically and adapt to any key. And tubas were a late addition to the orchestra once valves were firmly entrenched, and so didn't have the same legacy to deal with as trumpets and trombones. There are still E-flat, C and B-flat tubas, but the player is expected to learn the fingering system that applies to their tuba and read in concert pitch at the sounding octave. I'm sure there are much better explanations of transposing instruments out there on YouTube, and so I encourage you to go and look for those. And if you've got a really great one, feel free to leave me a link in the comments. Bye for now.